The dogma of empire. Ah, empire. We may think we know what it means, but do we? Well, an empire, by definition, controls a lot of territory and or people. The term comes from the Latin imperium, which originally pertained to the control that the patriarch had over anyone in the household. Furthermore, in ancient Rome, it applied to military leaders who exercised imperium in the field. The term for this type of leader, imperator, later came to be used by Roman emperors, men who held power over everyone. Thus, Roman leaders, although not certainly the first to control many lands and people, brought the terminology and history of this kind of rule to the Western world. The other question is whether empire is positive or negative. The last several years, there has been a movement in the West, and in particular the United States, to denigrate empire and see our mechanizations in the world only in a negative light. That dogma only considers empire, and especially ours, as completely oppressive. Yet, is it? Let's look at the main characteristics of an empire while we endeavor to puzzle this out. Through this examination, I believe that we will find our empire to have both positive and negative aspects, but exist out of necessity. The foundational element of empire is a strong central government. Our most recent examples of this come from the major American political parties banning abortions and instituting COVID lockdowns, affecting both the citizenry and businesses. So both the American left and right have shown themselves to be authoritarian and imperial when it comes to civil liberties. In fact, Supreme Court Justice Alito said that he was surprised at how quickly people gave up their freedom. Gave up? Or had it swiftly wrenched from us? And why did people go along? Learned helplessness, perhaps? As people have come to accept and even crave a strong central government, which many of our founders, including Thomas Jefferson, feared. In fairness, though, perhaps the government's level of control was rooted in concern for the citizenry. During the latter part of the Roman Empire, a series of diseases cycled through the empire for 25 years. The illnesses are believed to have been hemorrhagic fever, smallpox, and influenza. These decimated the empire, killing farmers, which threatened the food supply, government officials, which disrupted services, the military, which allowed raiders and enemy forces to penetrate defenses, and traders, which exacerbated food shortages. Perhaps this is what our government, when instituting lockdowns, feared would happen with COVID. Yet they forgot two important things. First, we in the West are more technologically advanced than at any point in history, and especially in America, are traditionally rugged individualists, a resilient and free people. This is what others around the world have admired about us, and this is what has caused us to be the leading entrepreneur and the land of opportunity, not cowering in our homes. That's what has made our empire different, is that despite some flawed behaviors, we have been integral in raising the standard of living around the world and promoted the concept of individual freedoms. That's what the Revolutionary War was about. That's what the Cold War was about. That's what Roe versus Wade was about. The freedom to live as we wish. Another important element of empire is global trade, of which the Romans also give us an example. At a business complex in Pompeii, a well-known trading booth houses a mosaic of an elephant, indicating a business relationship with Africa. Another, the Romanized name for Narbonne, France. These examples show the global reach of Roman trade. We also trade globally, which, like with every empire, has both positive and negative aspects. NAFTA, and the current policy updated under President Trump, allow us to flood the countries to the south with grain, which provides cheaper food for people in those countries, as well as causes several problems. First, it disenfranchises small farmers who then cross into the U.S. seeking agricultural jobs. Secondly, our genetically modified grain seems to be making many of those who were used to heritage crops ill. Thirdly, it gives big ag companies more market share and puts more small farmers in our own country out of business. And both major political parties, no matter the rhetoric about helping small businesses, cave to the power of these multinational companies. Yet, as a sign of our waning empire, the past few years we have been pulling back from our involvement in South America. And what is happening? The Chinese government is now building naval bases there. Considering the Chinese Communist Party's record on civil rights, is this a good thing? If a dominant empire is needed to keep the balance of power in the world, to keep pirates from ruling the seas, to restrain a rogue state from unleashing a biological or nuclear attack on the world, to continue to promote freedom and free enterprise, isn't it better that we, even with our flawed history, stay the preeminent world power? The last element clearly demonstrates the best and worst aspects of empire: standardization. Consider computer software programs. How much market share does Microsoft have over both personal use and that of other companies? Certainly it makes life easier in some ways, but don't we lose something in the process? If Bill Gates had grown up in Europe, would he have as easily built his company and dominated the global software industry? Or has the strength of the U.S. empire served as a conduit to his success? Moreover, global companies make it more difficult to produce and find handmade products. Even if you shop major big box stores and see a variety of items under different companies' names, do a little digging and you'll find that even competing products are owned by the same companies or their subsidiaries, and that the products aren't all that different. Those companies will come out ahead either way. Yet, empire makes it much easier for these large multinational companies, which provide thousands of good-paying jobs, to expand market share in other countries. I discussed these issues recently with my friend Cal over a couple of beers. We sit at a brew pub along Central Avenue in my hometown. Let me take you to that moment. We are on the outside patio. The summer evening is warm and complemented by a light breeze. The drone of nearby traffic has a calming effect on me, despite our heated conversation. Anyway, Cal says, sighing, I've been reading a lot about history, and it seems to me that the world's most powerful leaders were just terrible people. Like whom? I ask. He answers, like Caesar, Napoleon, our founding fathers, all of them. What makes them so terrible, Cal? Really, Vincent? They trampled over people's rights, abused their power, murdered, exploited, just like our country does today. Okay, Cal, so let me ask you this. Do you think that we're worse than the Chinese Communist Party or the Russians or the Middle Eastern governments would be? That's a bullshit argument, Vincent. We're not as bad, so that makes us good? I'm not saying that, Cal. Should we be less exploitive? That'd be great. But we should have perspective. We've taken from and we've helped improve countries as well. You're delusional, Vincent. The world doesn't need empire. It's just greedy old men wanting control. It's human nature, Cal. If not us, it'll just be someone else. Cal gives me a look of disgust, stands and walks out without another word. The next day, he texts me to apologize for being rude. Whatever. I've come to expect that behavior from hypocrites. Hypocrite? Cal? Why? Well, does Cal deny himself any of the food or electronics or any other of the benefits of our system? Nope. Yet I guess that criticizing the very empire from which he benefits justifies for him the enjoyment of the exploitation of which he is a part. In one of the more entertaining scenes from Monty Python's Life of Brian, Judean rebels rail against their Roman overlords in a diatribe known as, "What have the Romans ever done for us?" In an honest summary, it ends with this statement: all right, but apart from the sanitation, medicine, education, wine, public order, irrigation, roads, a fresh water system, and public health, what have the Romans ever done for us? Point made. The word Americans could easily be substituted for Romans in that statement. Some people would like us to be more like Sweden, a country which does seem to offer many benefits to its citizens. But is Sweden responsible for the safety and freedom of the entire world? No. Perhaps that's why it can give so much to its citizens. Yet wait, let's forget being the policeman of the world so that we can have free stuff. Okay. Despite the danger of which country would take our place, it's also time for an economics lesson. Why is our food, coffee, alcohol, and many other products so much cheaper here than in other countries, including Sweden? Because we're an empire, and one that currently is quite benevolent in comparison to our global competitors. Okay, folks, that's it for this one. Please like the video, subscribe, share it. Until next time, this is Vincent. Goodbye.